Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining us on Plugged In with Jay by way of the Fantasy Football Plug podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, James Koh. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to be part of the show.
Yeah, man, happy to have you. I know you've been pretty busy. I've been seeing you on all my buddies' shows, man. I've been getting kind of jealous.
Well, it's the off season, and and for me, the off season basically just means eating better, working out a little bit more, watching my kids a lot more, and jumping onto other people's podcasts. Because I tell you what, man, once the preseason starts, it's all gas, no brakes, and I just don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth to jump onto other people's podcast. I have to very politely decline many, many podcast appearances. I mean, I'll do one here or there, but for the most part, I just don't have that bandwidth because, again, man, I got two kids and everything. I'm married and all that. So, I try to spend as much of my free time during the regular season with the fam as possible. And I tell you, when you're working, 60 to 80 hours a week, there's just not that much time.
Right. I can't imagine, man. Yeah. I've got a pretty hectic job as well. So Tuesdays and Sundays are basically my day. So I appreciate you
There you
making the
go.
time, man.
Yeah.
Four-time Emmy Award winner. What, 2 for news and 2 in sports? Is that right?
Yeah, and it's an accomplishment in terms of the variation that I think I'm pretty proud of. No, I think I am very proud of.
Yeah.
Just because, look, it's like, I made my bones doing hard journalism, and to be recognized for that, it was certainly very special to me. I've got the Emmys, and if I can toot my own horn a little bit, I picked up an Edward R. Murrow Award, which is a very prestigious award for journalism. I picked up an Associated Press Award for Small Market Reporter of the Year from again from the AP, and that's also a pretty prestigious award that I take a lot of pride in. And the reason I bring that up is because the reason I was able to win those awards is because those journalism awards is because I'm taking these complex ideas and I'm able to, and I think I have a pretty good skill in melting down these complex ideas and then presenting them in a very digestible way. And that was my calling card for many, many years in local journalism. And I brought that same approach, and I think it's a very different approach to sports media. I don't know. It's interesting because I think most sports people think you just have to know a lot about the sports. Like you have to just be an absolute junkie. And there is something to that. There's no doubt. But if you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you can't translate that and make it digestible to people, it doesn't mean anything. And I think I've done a pretty good job, I think, in terms of, taking these complex concepts like you'll see in fantasy football, because we're talking about pretty advanced numbers, and then kind of just breaking it all down and making it approachable and digestible to any person that will come in contact with it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, God, that's very well put for sure. Like something I've noticed about you and your shows is something I've always wanted to bring up to you is your characters. I'm very big on characters, man. Like I'm huge into making characters. Like this top hat is for Fantasy
Yeah.
Scrooge, man. And I've always messed with top hats, man. I've always liked them. My wife hates it, but whatever. But so she's not here, so I can sport it. But so I do my characters and stuff. And something I've always really enjoyed about watching you is the characters that you have, man. Are those like thought off the top of the dome, or is that something that that like say what DirecTV puts to you to where you come up with them, or do you make those yourself?
No, it's all from the dome, man. It's all from this crazy mind. I think there's a thought that, and it's true for a lot of folks in media, but I think there's a thought that, if you get up to the network level, you get a lot of producers and stuff behind you, and people write stuff for you and all that. And I will just say this, I have never had a ghostwriter. I've never had somebody write script for me. Every single word that has ever come out of my mouth has been written or at least touched on by me. And especially with all these creative content, like I'm not Drake. I don't got ghostwriters. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all from the dome. It's all from the dome, man. So yeah, and I take a lot of pride in that, and for me, I take a lot of pride and pleasure in coming up with these skits. So I think somebody had asked me like, don't you ever run out? And it's like, no, I never do. I'm always, I will say this, I'm always thinking about it, and look, I don't want to take away from the incredible team that
Sure.
is behind me, like I've got a great producer that is kind of sort of my muse, and we always go back and forth talking about ideas and, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And just having conversations with him inspires a lot of ideas. And if I ever do start feeling like, oh my gosh, man, I'm struggling with something, I just give him a call, and we just shoot the shit and talk about stuff. And then, all of a sudden we got like 3, 4 ideas. We're like, oh man, that could work, that could work, that could work. And obviously we've got a great editor on our staff as well that really makes these ideas kind of come to life. So yeah, man, so much of it is off the dome. I'll tell you this too, kind of a, I don't know, like a behind the curtains type of thing. Like I direct a lot of these shoots too, in terms of like, I want it to look like this.
Nice.
You got to understand, like I have a very particular vision in mind whenever I'm putting these things together. And so, we'll shoot stuff, and I used to shoot myself. And so I can kind of sort of tell, like, just from positioning of the cameras and everything, like, hey, are we doing this right? From a lighting perspective, it's like, oh, are we doing this right? Like, I want the look and the feel to be right. And I do a lot of directing in studio as well.
Man, that's huge. That's awesome to know. I love it, man. Because when I start watching your show, like your characters and stuff, and seeing you on IG and Twitter, it's phenomenal. But I have a mind like that too. Like I'll wake up in the middle of the night, or I'll be thinking about before I pass out, and I have a notepad on the side of the bed, and I'll write the stuff down.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think the same thing that you do. Like my creative side just clicks for some reason when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I used to write it down, and now it's just like, for all the content creators out there, it's like, dude, Google Docs is, linked up everywhere, right? So like, I have it on my phone, so like, I just have Google Docs, and when I think of something, I just open up a sheet,
Oh,
like a running sheet that I have, and it's like, and the reason that helps is because same thing with the pad and paper. You can carry that anywhere, but you need to have this thing portable, and you
oh
need
yeah,
to
for
have
sure.
it kind of connected everywhere. So if I'm on my desktop, boom, open that Google Doc, like just start, pumping away some ideas in there. It's like if I'm on the, I could be in my car at a stoplight. I like think of something, boom, it's like I could break it out. So yeah, what you're talking about in terms of like writing notes down, I always tell people that's huge, man. You have to write notes down.
Yeah, big time. Like, yeah, I'll write them down. But yeah, Google Docs, I have a buddy of mine who introduced that to me not too long ago. So yeah, I've been using that a lot too on my phone because you're right. I can't carry around a notepad too many places. So I look
Yeah.
weird, like I'm some kind of writer. Um, so what made you decide to get into television?
I always wanted to pursue a career in sports. And so I talk about all this like journalism, my journalism background.
Mhm.
And quite frankly, like that's kind of sort of what was able to advance my career quickly. Not everybody has the same path. As a matter of fact, nobody has the same path. There's so many people who have crazy different paths. But my path is a little bit more old school, like, I had to come up small market, medium sized market, then a large market, and then I break through to the network side. I'm very much like a textbook, old school textbook case of like how you climb the ladder.
Yeah.
um for me, it's like, how did I get into TV? It was just kind of sort of like, I don't know. It was crazy because, growing up, I never thought about it. I never thought it was possible. I'm a first generation kid. My family immigrated here from Korea. As a matter of fact, I was born in Korea,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and I moved out here when I was about a year old, right? So like, so for me, I had to get naturalized. I picked up my citizenship when I turned 18. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so English is not even my first language, believe it or not, which is crazy, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So for me, being on TV was never a thought until maybe I was like 22 years old. I didn't know nobody in TV. I didn't know anybody in journalism. I didn't know anybody in media. I didn't know anybody who did anything other than just own a small business, mom and pop shops. I knew some dentists. I knew, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
there wasn't anybody I knew who did this kind of work. So, and the reason I bring that up is because so much of your expectations on yourself um, is built through your interpersonal network, right? So, like, if you have an uncle who's a doctor, well, all of a sudden being a doctor doesn't seem that foreign, right? Like, if your mom's an engineer, like, well, you could be an engineer, right? Like, that's how people choose careers, as crazy as that sounds. So for me to kind of break off from that branch and kind of pursue my own thing, it was just more of I just made a decision of, you know what, man, let's just see what I can do. And I just want to see if I can do it, because I always had a passion for it. Like, growing up, the crazy thing is, I love sports broadcasters more than the athletes. Like, I loved Chris Berman. Like, I absolutely loved Chick Hearn, right? Like, and just these guys that I would think about, Keith Jackson, watching college football. Like, I love these dudes growing up. So it was, for me, something that I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to go about doing that. And as a matter of fact, when I graduated, Berkeley, I actually held a regular job for like a couple years. So I didn't get going into my media career until much, much later.
Wow, man. That's impressive. Yeah, where are their trading cards, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Give me a Chick Hearn's NFT, bro. Like, I'll buy that,
I'll trade you that for a Pat Summerall.
Exactly. Give me a Pat Summerall NFT, bro. I'll buy that, no doubt.
That's awesome, man. So how long have you been playing fantasy football?
I have been playing fantasy football. I've been playing fantasy sports since 1996, and then I've been playing fantasy football since 98. And I'll be honest with people, like, I really wasn't hardcore into NFL fantasy football until much later. I loved fantasy baseball and basketball. Fantasy baseball was the first fantasy sport I ever played. And fantasy basketball, oh my God, it was madness. Like, there was like probably a good 10-year stretch where I would have, minimum 4 basketball teams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love the NBA. I love college hoops and all that. Like, that's kind of like, sort of like, when you get into the football, mainstream and everything, like, people kind of sort of think like, oh, you only talk about football. And it's like, man, you got to understand, like, there was like a good, 15, 20-year stretch where I was like NBA hardcore. Actually, I covered the Clippers for a full season too.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Man.
So yeah, man, it's been an interesting journey, but fantasy football for me kind of grew into prominence probably like in probably like 2005 is like my earliest like recollection of just being like, I'm like, okay, now I love fantasy football. And I used to look forward to draft day, man. Like, I've been in this league for a long time. We used to have a live draft. I mean, we had like a full on buffet spread. I mean, I remember one year somebody hired like a sticker girl, to put stickers on our board. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was all out, man. Like, and every year for like a good like 10 years, it was fried chicken and 40s every single draft. Like, we would just be, I mean, I would just be hammering these 40s and fried chicken all over the place. And it was dope, man. Like, it was an experience for me. And it's been like that for a long time. And then obviously, as I got into it professionally as well, it's like my passion for it only grew. I'm not, man, I'll tell you what, man, I'm not like some of these guys that I know, that I know this is going to really shock people. Okay. But like, there's a lot of people I know in this business that they are kind of burned out. by fantasy football, and they're burned out by football. And when game days come around, they kind of sort of really view it as like, oh my God, I got to watch these games,
Like a
you
job.
know, like a job. And I get it. It is a job, but like, and it's funny. Like I know a lot of people in this space that they consume so much football, they're burned out by it.
Sure.
And I'm not that dude, like I love it. Like it's like more games, the better for me. Like I'm all about it, man. And like
Yeah.
the more I can dig into like, box scores and stats and look at like, various things, like I'm all about it, so and luckily I have a job that allows me to do that. So it's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Is your wife a football fan?
She is. She actually
Lucky.
is. Yeah. Yeah. She enjoys watching games. I mean, listen, like she's not going to sit there and watch, no offense to these teams, but she's not going to sit there and watch Jags Titans. Okay. Like
Right.
that's not going to, but like, yeah, like if there's like an interesting, there's a lot of interesting teams out there. And certainly, I mean, actually the Jags would be one of them once they pick up Trevor Lawrence, but yeah, I mean, she loves watching Thursday Night Football, she loves watching island games, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But yeah, she generally won't sit there, she's not going to get up, 10 a.m. Pacific time and like just watch 6 hours of games. Like that's just not going to
Right.
happen. But she'll watch island games. Yeah. And she loves watching island games for sure.
That's awesome. My wife, she'll watch, like, I'm a big Saints fan. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So, like, I've been a Saints fan since I was a kid. And, like, she hated football before we got together. And still stomachs it now. So, whenever the Saints are playing, she's in. But other than that, no, she's not too keen on it. I did get her, however, to play a season of fantasy football, and she beat me for the championship.
Oh, let's
I was so,
go.
I don't, to this day, I know she had a ghostwriter. She had to have. She pulled. What are you saying? When she pulled a Drake on me, I swear she had to have, because she was listening. She was listening to me. For all of you out there who are trying to follow my advice, she was listening to me. That's how she beat me.
That's funny,
That's
man. That
terrible.
is
Yeah,
great.
yeah. She won't play anymore. She's like, no, I'm done. I'm going out on top. I'm like,
I like it. That's interesting. That's good, man. I like it.
that sucks so bad. So let me ask you. So whenever you're drafting, you're talking about your draft. Do you have a specific strategy that you like to follow, or are you just kind of, because I hear a lot of different kind of strategies, and lately I've been hearing a lot of best available, and I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the way the game is going, more running back by committee approaches, and I think more and more people are starting to um, kind of sort of see that and see the value of taking a wide receiver early. Look, man, I'm not one of these like psychos that's just like, oh, if you're taking running back early, you're stupid. It's like zero RB or you're dumb. It's like I'm not that guy. And so yeah, I think when you hear best available, I think that's kind of sort of a tip of the cap to the zero RB crowd.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of sort of like a tip of the cap, but not necessarily all the way zero RB, and I'm kind of sort of there too. Um, and to be honest with you, when I do my own personal rankings, and I don't really publish my rankings because I don't have a home for them. But if I were to publish my rankings, like you would see a lot of running backs a lot lower, I think, than you would normally. And the big thing for me too is last year I was just like looking at some of these running backs, and I guess I just didn't really understand, like I had Tyreek Hill way higher than consensus. I had Devontae Adams, Julio Jones. I had Nuke Hopkins way higher than consensus. I didn't understand how he fell out of the top 12, but he was going around pick 20. So yeah, no, I think my draft strategy is basically kind of sort of like, um, you know, it's like it's hard because like it really depends on. I know it's going to sound dumb, but it like depends on the platform,
Yeah. Not
because
dumb at
when
all.
you go to ESPN's rankings, like they're very different in the middle rounds than like NFL.com's rankings in the middle rounds. That's very different than like Yahoo's rankings in the middle rounds, right? So like they might have, for example, like I don't know, like I'm trying to think, like they might have like Marlon Mack or something like that. That's a guy whose like value is going to be like all over the map,
Right. Right.
depending on what platform you go to.
Mhm.
But it's like if I have Marlon Mack valued at like a top 100 player, but he's on ESPN going as like is pre-ranked as like a top, 70 player, I know I'm never going to take him, right?
Right.
Versus like he might be like he might be like ranked 120 on Yahoo, right? And if I have him at like 100, then I'm thinking, okay, well, like as the rounds are going, like, okay, I'm going to try to take this guy for value or whatever. I mean, it's a bad example because I don't want to take Marlon Mack, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those,
Yeah,
it's platform based, and like you have to read the room too. So
right.
I guess best available is the best shortcut answer for that for me, but I'm really just looking for value. Like who are my value picks at every round?
Right, right. Yeah. And if you have specific leagues that you've been in for a while, you know how certain guys draft and you got to kind of
Yeah,
break
yeah,
them down.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Draft day for me is like Christmas day, man. I love it.
For
Get all that
sure.
stuff set up. We did last year. I've always run my work league, and I'm real big on doing something special as far as picking the draft order, the draft day. I do all the stuff. But last year we did a Belmont Stakes to where we drew numbers and then put them into a bingo, like a bingo thing, like or a lotto
Yeah,
cage.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
whichever number you drew, that was when you drew out of the bingo cage to make it just so fair that nobody can bitch about it. And then whichever horse you pulled, that's, wherever they came in the race is where you draft. So
Oh my God, that's
it was a lot of
crazy.
fun. The year before I did it, and I got the horse that was 64-1.
Uh-huh.
And he
You want
came
it?
in first.
Oh
Everybody
my
was
God.
so pissed.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Dude, that's amazing. That's actually a really good idea.
It's a
I like that
blast
idea. Yeah,
because it's
yeah, yeah.
not too
You tie it
far.
into a different sporting event. It's great.
Yeah, it's not too far ahead of the draft that you have to sit there and wait so much. You can start doing mocks and stuff where your specific position. So yeah, man, it was fun. But my buddy was like, you had to, there's no way you didn't cheat. I'm like, dude, if I knew that this horse was gonna win, I wouldn't be working
Right,
anymore. I would have dropped every
right.
penny I had.
Yeah, exactly. Come
Idiot.
on. I
um,
know.
so you were recently on with the Rum Boys Network, good buddies of mine, and
Hmm.
Bogart Scott Free on My Version's Better.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Those guys are a lot of fun, man.
Bogey's hilarious, man. But I was talking to him last night, and he told me to tell you hello, and he had a couple things that he wanted me to bring up to you, if that's cool. Um,
Okay.
a bunch of free agency stuff, like, about the free agency frenzy going on.
Yeah.
Uh, so who are some free agency winners to you? Like, on the same note, who are some losers?
Man, I think when I take a look at free agency, for me, it's kind of like there are some definite losers. I actually don't see that many clear-cut winners,
I agree.
believe it or not, right? Like Kenny Galladay signing with the Giants, like, I don't know. That's like, I don't see that as like an upgrade. Like Matt Stafford versus Daniel Jones, like, is that, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, right.
I feel like that's like a wash. You know what I mean? I mean, Sterling
Yeah.
Shepard is there, Evan Engram is there. So certainly he elevates the offense, which is great.
Mhm.
Everyone's got a very well-defined role because I like Sterling Shepard as a player, but clearly he's a slot man. Evan Engram obviously is a tight end. And Kenny Galladay all of a sudden adds this vertical element to the passing attack. So in a way, I feel like Kenny Galladay really adds to Daniel Jones. I don't think
That's my opinion.
Daniel Jones really adds to Kenny Galladay. So I think we're going to be talking about a guy again that's going to be hovering around that 1,000-yard, marker. Probably will be hovering around anywhere between 6 to 10 touchdowns. I think there's just I think Kenny Galladay will come with wide variance on a week-to-week basis because Daniel Jones to me is somebody that locks in on people. He's not one of these read and react quarterbacks. He's very much like, what's the play design? I'm going there, right?
Right, right. And God
Um,
forbid he has to run the ball.
I mean, listen, I mean, we make fun, but the guy can scoot, like,
Man,
yeah,
what was it, 22 miles per hour or something?
yeah, like the guy can scoot, dude, like we make fun because he got tackled by the turf monster, but bro, like, I mean, he put himself in that position, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, it's interesting to me, and then I think from a, just like a WTF, situation, like JuJu going back to Pittsburgh just mucks it all up for everybody, like
Yeah.
It's bad for JuJu. It's bad for Chase Claypool. It's bad for Deontay Johnson. I mean, maybe it's not bad for Deontay because no matter what, Deontay is going to get his, But
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, if you're JuJu and you like legit had an opportunity to go play with, let's say Patrick Mahomes
Yeah.
in Kansas City, like why would you not go and do that? Like, he and Tyreek would have formed the nastiest duo.
Oh,
We're talking about a guy running in the slot that can also, stretch the field a little bit in JuJu, and then Tyreek who's just everywhere. Kind of sort of the same thing, like he, believe it or not, like people might not know, but like Tyreek slid into the slot a lot. Like he played out of the slot quite a bit
yeah.
this past year. So like, and yeah, he would still run seam routes and all that, but like, he's moving around. And like I would see JuJu as kind of sort of that same um kind of player in terms of versatility. Now, obviously not in terms of speed, but
Right.
versatility. It's like it'd be great. I guess I don't see that many clear-cut winners. I mean, AJ Green going to Arizona is, I don't know. I mean, I think he still has a little bit of juice left, but clearly he's, not in the prime of his career. Nuke is certainly going to take a lot of that, coverage with him. And AJ Green, we're hoping, is a significant step up from Larry Fitzgerald. I think Christian Kirk will kick into the slot, and AJ will, kind of play that flanker position, and then we'll see. So that should be good. And then, I look at the tight end position. At first, everyone's super excited about JuJu going to New England. And then, like, a day later, they signed Hunter Henry. And it's
Yeah.
okay, now those are two tight ends now. I'm not sure what to do with.
Right.
I mean, they're both draftable, but JuJu went from like, ooh, this could be interesting to, okay, yeah, he's just another streamer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And by the way, I do want to remind people, JuJu has never had a 500-yard season. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so just keep that in mind. Like, I mean, we talk about JuJu more than he has actually produced, if that makes any sense.
Right.
As a matter of fact, JuJu's never even had a 450-yard season. To put in perspective what he has done, Hunter Henry has never had, his career high was 652,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and that was playing mostly a healthy season last season with a guy on fire in Justin Herbert. So, I mean, let's pump the brakes a little bit with these guys. So yeah, I'm just Kenyon Drake going to Oakland. That's like, okay, we're taking another running back off the board. Like, Drake is a handcuff at best now,
Right.
and it lowers the value, I think, a little bit for Josh Jacobs as well. So I don't know. What am I missing here? Like all these free agent moves, I didn't love a lot of them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I was thinking more that it's more interesting than anything, not anything spectacular. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to reach for this guy. Nothing like that. I feel like Belichick brought those two up there to try and reform, like, Gronkowski and Hernandez kind of thing. Like, you got one guy who's really strong after the pass.
Yeah, no, it is for sure. The only problem is that, and I think it's a very fair comparison. It makes a lot of sense. The only problem is that Gronkowski is a Hall of Fame tight end. Neither of these guys, JuJu or Hunter, is that dude. So when we start talking about 12 personnel, it's like, oh, they're going to run double tight and all that. It's like, okay, yeah, but do you have a Hall of Fame tight end on one side or not? Like, I'm just, you know what I mean? Like, we got one guy who is a great run blocker in JuJu. We've got one guy who's a great, pass catcher in Hunter Henry. If you were to fuse those two together, you've got Rob Gronkowski. Okay, but you don't, right? So like, so what are we talking about here? If anything, I think the JuJu Smith addition, I think that helps considerably somebody like Cam. I think it's going to help Damian Harris. I think it's going to help the New England running game. But from a fantasy perspective, those two guys, in terms of JuJu and Hunter Henry, I don't know, man. Like, those guys are late round flyers again. Like, I don't really see that much upside with either guy.
Right. Yeah. I'm not going for either of them. So, I mean, even if they make it to the last pick, I'll probably find somebody better than that. I can't. I don't really trust anybody in New England anymore. You know what I mean? Like, their running game always confuses and scares the hell out of me. James James White was the only one that I would even look at, but New England I normally stay away from now.
Man, I tell you what, I'm going to be investing heavily in Damien Harris. I think he's a special player. I think Bill Belichick wants to get back to a little bit more fundamental football in terms of running the ball and playing strong defense. People got to remember too that the Patriots, like half of their starting defense either opted out or left in free agency last year. This year they pick up Matthew Judon. I think they're going to be their opt out. Most of their opt outs are coming back. Like I think the Patriots are going to try to win low scoring games next year, and I think their defense is going to be on point. I really like. Well, I like the Patriots DST as a super. You know, if you're trying to last pick of the draft, I like the Patriots D. And I do think that pairs. Anytime you think about great defenses, you got to think about. And I want people to understand this. When you're thinking about great defenses, you have to think about the run game. You just have to. Like those two things go together like peanut butter and jelly. Those two things go together like hot sauce and fried chicken. Like you have to think about the running game when you think about great defenses. And I think New England will have a good defense. And I think Damien Harris, who again is a special player, I think will have a great opportunity to far exceed ADP and expectations next year.
Well, I hope so, man. I like him as a player for real. Like I really do. Real quick, one of the last things, man, I'll let you get going. I know you're a busy, man. Jonathan Taylor, with Marlon Mack coming back, do you think it's going to hurt his value? How often do you hear this?
It's not even how often do I hear it. It's like there's so many head scratching moves in the NFL, you know, it's just kind of like why? Like Kenyon Drake, from a Kenyon Drake perspective, like if you are Kenyon Drake, like why in the blue hell are you going to Oakland, bro? Like you're clearly the backup. I'm sorry, in Las Vegas. I always call them Oakland. In Las Vegas. Yeah, I know you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. Like, go to a team that needs a starting running back. You know, like that. It's like it's baffling to me. Some of these guys, the moves that they're making. Like, it would have actually been pretty spicy if Drake actually went back to Miami. I think that would have been an interesting reunion. You know what I'm saying? Go to Jacksonville. Like that would have been interesting. Get into a competition with James Robinson. I feel like that could have been a 1A, 1B situation, right? Yeah. But like you're clearly behind Josh Jacobs. Like I don't understand. And then Marlon Mack is another situation too. It's just like, I mean, maybe it's the best situation for Marlon Mack because he's injured. That's fine. But if you're the Colts, like, what are you doing? You know, like, stop it. Stop it. Like you saw Jonathan Taylor grow and develop as a player last year. Like, what are you doing? Like, if you wanted to compliment him, find a running back in the draft. You know what I mean? Like, you can find a running back in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round to complement Jonathan Taylor. You know, and again, Nyheim Hines is going to be there. Like, stop it, Colts. Like, I don't understand what you're doing. Like, you don't need Marlon Mack. Jonathan Taylor developed when Marlon Mack was sidelined with an injury. You don't need this guy to come back and kind of sort of mess with that rotation. Develop Jonathan Taylor as an every down back. Develop him as a great player. Get the fan base excited. And I guess I just don't understand that move. I think it dings Jonathan Taylor. You know, he was locked and loaded to be, you know, probably a top 8 pick in upcoming drafts. And I don't necessarily know if I see the value there now. You know, I wonder if his ADP will cause him to slide into the 2nd round where, you know, his price and his upside is a little bit more enticing. But right now where he's at, I don't know, man. I got to see what his ADP is going to look like come August. But right now I'm not feeling that great about it because Frank Reich and the boys, they clearly are okay with running 3, 4, you know, running backs out there. So that would kind of sort of be my take on this whole situation.
Yeah. You said it exactly what I was thinking. Just stop it. It's not cute. Like why?
No, right.
Makes no sense to me, man. No sense.
Right.
So do you have any wisdom to drop on the newbies like myself wanting to make a career in fantasy football? What do you recommend? Anything?
Listen, man, I could go on for, you know, another hour about this, because I've thought about this from my own perspective, my own career, quite a bit. And the reason I say that is because I love it when people say like, "Oh, I could do what you're doing," and I'm always like, "Yeah, you absolutely could." Um, because I don't view myself as some kind of special talent. I don't view myself as some kind of like, you know, some person that like, was born to do this or whatever. I'm just here because I have a passion for it. I've got a good work ethic. And quite frankly, I've thought about this longer, harder, and smarter than I think most people have. So I'm always like, yeah, you think you can do this? Go ahead, because there's nothing stopping you. Again, I gave you that background of I didn't know anybody. Like, no one got me my first job, you know? So, yeah, could you break through? You absolutely could. It speaks, whenever I hear that, I'm like, it speaks more to you that you haven't done it than it has me having done it. Because again, I don't view myself as somebody that is supremely talented. But the advice that I would give people is you have to create content at all times. People, I get really fed up with people who tell me like, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. I'm like, all right, cool. What's your portfolio look like? It's like, well, I don't have any articles, but like I know I can write. It's like, no, Doug, that's a complete non-starter. Like, oh, I know I could do a podcast. Like, I've got this podcast. We pump out this podcast, once every 10 days or so. I'm like, no, like, no, dog, like, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't cut it. It's like, oh, I want to be on air. Okay, cool. Like, I want to be on TV. I want to be on NFL Network. I want to be on DirecTV. I want to be on Amazon Prime. All right, cool. Like, where's your on-camera work? Well, I haven't done that because nobody's given me the opportunity. That last part, nobody has given me the opportunity. In today's world, that is complete bullshit, right? Like,
I agree.
There's an unlimited number of platforms for you to be creating content, video, written, audio. Like, so I don't want to hear that, about not having created content. And I think what people will find out is the process of creating the content is very difficult. And it's when you actually get to take all your preparation and then present it, that's actually the easier part, right? I won't say it's easy, but it's easier. But this whole mental grind of every single day, being able to come up with ideas, being able to think of stuff, being able to, and examining your own work, doing self-examination, self-tape study, and all those things, like all of those things are things that people don't see when they see me on camera, right? Like, right. I've studied my own tape for hours and hours every single week, like when I talk about my work week, like I build in studying my own work, right? I build in networking, by the way. So like, that's another thing. It's like, okay, so create content, and you want to be creating content at least every other day if you're new, right? Because quite frankly, you suck and you need the work. Yes. So because you suck, you need more practice than someone like myself, right? Because I've been doing this for, damn near 15 years. Like, you got to catch up, bro. Right? So like, if that's the case, man, like you really got to put that work in on the front end. And then I would strongly encourage, like, the reason I think I've gotten to where I've gotten to, the content is one thing, the presentation and all that stuff, that's something, but like, somebody's got to give you that opportunity. And I think far too often, young people or people looking to break into a highly competitive field feel like, I'm just going to create all this content and somebody is going to notice it. And that somebody is going to magically offer me a job. I hate to break it to people out there. That shit is never going to happen. If somebody recognizes your work, great. Like, somebody then hits the like button on your Twitter or your Instagram or your whatever, TikTok. I don't use TikTok, right. But whatever, right?
Right.
Great. Cool. Like, that's a million miles away from getting a job, right? So now getting the job is a job. and people don't treat it like a job. Creating content is a job, and people understand that process of that job. Like, oh, I got to create content. Like, I get that. But then they get to the halfway point. Creating the content is halfway point, and then the other half is actually finding the job. And there is such a dearth of knowledge in terms of finding the job, and a dearth of effort in finding the job. That's, I believe, where I separate myself from damn near everybody in this industry. I spend at least 50% of my off season looking for work. And when I say looking for work, what does that mean? Understanding the industry, understanding personalities, who are the decision makers, who are really the decision makers here. That's where I think I'm able to separate myself. And like, dude, you've got everyone's got LinkedIn, like that's why I find it funny. Like, people use LinkedIn like it's like Facebook. Like, oh,
like a social, just
yeah,
like
oh, my second cousin's on LinkedIn. I'm just gonna link up with him. Like, bro, stop doing that shit. Like, I've got friends of mine that are like friends. Like, they're actually my friends, and they want up on LinkedIn. They're like, hey, you didn't add me on LinkedIn. I'm like, yeah, dog, because you're not in my business, homie. Like, what does a damn dentist have to do with finding media work? Right? Like, if you want to be my friend, cool. Let's do either call, text, Instagram, Facebook. Like, I'm down. Okay. Like, you want to grab a beer? Let's do that. But don't get on my case about not adding you on LinkedIn. Like, I don't care, and it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's heartless, but you got to keep your eye on the prize, right? So like, if you go to my LinkedIn page, my network is all people that can help me, and maybe I can help them. Like, it's not a one-way street. Like, I very, very much view this as a relationship. Like, can I help you? Can you help me? Like, it's just network building. And people would be very surprised. But there are jobs that I've gotten that have taken 2-3 years to develop, and it takes that long. So yeah, I would strongly encourage, people looking to break into the business, break into any business, any competitive business, man. Like, create the content and then go the next step, which is find that damn job. You know what I'm saying? And really think about your career from a game plan perspective. Plan it out. Like, in 6 months, I want to be here. In 1 year, I want to be here. In 5 years, I'd love to be here. And how do I go about doing that? It's not just this amorphous, oh, well, I mean, somebody's going to find me and somebody's going to magically offer me this contract. Like, stop it. Stop it. That doesn't happen. Like, that doesn't happen. I don't know what to tell you. Like, that doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this is
and I say that with caveats. There are certain people out there that are so special, that are so supremely talented, that are like, that you just watch them for like 5 seconds and you're like, yeah, this guy has this guy's got that. This guy's got that it factor, or this girl has definitely got that it factor, or whatever, and there are people like that out there. I can think of a couple people that are very much like that. Matt Harmon is somebody that reminds me of somebody like that, where you're just like, dude, man, this young fella, man, he's just so talented, bro. Yeah. Like, sky's the limit for this dude. And quite frankly, maybe it was the case, like, ever since he got that gig at NFL Network, like, maybe people just approach him. I don't know. I've never talked to him about it, but yeah, I mean, he doesn't seem like the kind of person, to me anyways, that's constantly looking for work. He's not, like, he's so talented, like, he can't actually do stuff and people approach him, versus me. I'm just a guy that does some stuff, like, and acts a fool every now and again. Like, I've got to actually go find people, like, I got to ask people, like, yo, will you actually pay me? You know what I mean? But there are certain people, I think, that are like that, that are extremely talented. But I just want to tell people, man, like, you're probably not that dude. Like, I hate to break it to you, but like, I'm not that dude. You know, like I got to spend a lot of damn time
Yeah.
looking for work because I'm not that guy, man.
There's nothing
So
wrong with that. Like there's
exactly, exactly. There's
nothing
nothing
wrong.
wrong with that, man. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, dude.
So many
So
people nowadays would take what you just said in the whole. And by the way, I'm going to splice to where the preview is you saying you suck, like you're telling me I suck. And I'm going to make it look like you're just killing
there you
me.
go. Perfect, perfect.
See
I
how many of the
like it.
millennials
I
come
like
out
it.
like this guy's a dick. No.
Yes, absolutely. I love that actually. Take it out of context. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. You got to put in the
Right.
work, man. And that's, I've looked into different ways to go get a degree and all that to try and, up my possibilities and stuff. So yeah, I understand. You got to put in the work. And with the job that I work and all that stuff on the side, doing everything else, and like how often I've reached out to you because we've had to reschedule so much. You got to grind. I mean, it's tough, but yeah, I mean, you definitely put in the work. I can see that.
I mean, it's extremely hard, especially finding your first. The hardest thing in the whole world, dude, is finding that first job. It really is. It's the hardest thing in the whole world,
Mhm.
because not only are you fighting, everybody else, dude. Quite frankly, I don't know if other people are like this, but for myself, you're fighting yourself.
Oh yeah.
Do I belong here? Do I deserve this job? It's like it's this weird, it's such a weird mentality, man. But like it's very like bipolar, this dichotomy of like, oh yeah, man, it's like, yeah, I deserve this job. But
Yeah.
then like, but then when you're crying in the shower by yourself, you're like, oh my God, do I deserve this job? It's weird. It's weird, bro. Like people are weird. Like I don't know if other people are like this, but like I know I'm like this. I'm just like I'm pounding my chest, like I'm the alpha gorilla, bro. Like, dude, like you got to pay me. I got to get checks. And then it's like when I like really think about it, and like it's like I'm quiet and it's like dark and like I'm like by myself. I'm like, damn, dude, do
Realize
I
it's
just
not shower water; it's your own tears.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, damn, dude, do I actually deserve this? Like, oh
Right.
man, am I just out of my league? Like, anyways, I'm just saying, like, getting that first job, hardest thing in the world. After you get that first job, hardest thing in the world is find that second job. Because I will
Yeah.
tell you right, I will
Doesn't
tell
get
you
you.
right now, I will tell you right now, that first, oh man, and I've seen, dude, you have no idea. I've seen this so often, bro. Like, people get that first job and they forget what it's like to go hunting again, and they just get comfortable. And I have seen so many talented people. Like, I'm like, oh my God, you're so talented, bro. But they stay in that one job forever.
Yeah.
And when I say forever, if you're in that one job, your first job, if you are in your first job for 5 years, you're in your first job maybe for 20 years. Like that's pretty like I'm very confident in saying that because when I've seen people get comfortable, uh, they're comfortable in their, even if it's not a great job, it's like they're just comfortable in that spot. Like I've seen people just kind of sort of just wither up and just be like, it's cool. Like I'll just be here forever. And listen, man, I don't ever want to, make somebody feel bad because people got to make choices. Like it's either like, family gets in the way. I don't want to say gets in the way, but like people have priorities,
Yeah.
like, and that's real. Like, and you got to understand, like when I was coming up, um, I didn't give, I honestly didn't give a fuck about anything other than just moving up. Like I
Yeah.
was just like, I was obsessed. I was like,
Hustle
okay, I got
mind.
to move up. I got to move up. I got to move
Yeah.
up. I got to move up. It's like, I didn't care about friends. I didn't care about family. I didn't care about nothing. Like, it was like, you can ask my wife. I was a complete douchebag. Like, it was just like, like there was many times when I had to step back and be like, whoa, dude, like you are like way out of pocket. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, you got to
Yeah.
take a step back,
Yeah.
and reconnect with friends and family. But like early on in my career, it was like that though. Like like I just was thought about moving up all the damn time.
Yeah.
And,
It's grind minded.
um, but honestly though, like if I had family, like if I had my kids back then, if I had my kids back then, I don't think I would be doing what I'm doing right now, you know?
Really?
Like, and people, you know, you have different priorities and you only have so many widgets. Everyone's got a set number of widgets. Some people have 15 widgets, other people got 25 widgets, but everyone's got widgets, you know?
Mhm.
And you can't do everything. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
like you can't be like a great family person, a great friend, and great at your job. And oh, by the way, you're also looking for work and trying to advance your career. Like you
Yeah.
just can't do all these things, right? So like you got to prioritize. And so like that's why I'm saying like I'm not sure. Like, listen, I don't want to make anybody feel bad. Okay, I really don't. If but you but also at the same time, do not sit there and tell yourself that you care about your career first and foremost when you've prioritized all these other things on top of that. That's all I'm saying. Just be honest with yourself and like, what are your priorities? If your priorities are your family, dude, that's noble, that's
Yeah.
honorable, that is dope, that's amazing. Do that shit. But don't be unhappy if you're not as far along in your career, if you haven't prioritized your career. That's all I'm saying. I just want happiness for everybody, man.
Yeah.
And happiness comes from truth. And the truth of the matter is, if you've prioritized other things first, then be happy in those things that you've prioritized first, you
Absolutely.
know?
Absolutely.
But, you know, don't prioritize this other thing and then be wondering like, well, what happened to this thing? It's like, well, you didn't prioritize that, bro. Like,
Right.
sorry.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I know you're upset, but like, hey man, like that's what happened. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You prioritize partying ahead of getting a job. Like, sorry, dog. Like
Yeah. Go
that
figure.
happens. You
No
should be
shit.
happy partying then. Like if that's the case,
Yeah.
you know, like just be happy with that. Like, but don't be mad at me because I didn't prioritize that and I prioritized, you know, my career first and foremost above all.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I got to where I got to, you know. So that's just kind of, I don't know, a very long-winded approach. But like I said, man, I could talk about this for hours, and I've thought about this for many, many hours because I've had to face my own interpersonal struggles with this,
Hmm.
and you know, I don't want anybody to feel like, oh yeah, this dude just it was a straight up rocket emoji. Like, no, dog, no, absolutely not. You know, like it took me a long time to get to where I got to. There was a lot of trials, a lot of tribulations, a lot of interpersonal demons. Like a lot of that shit happened. You know, like, and so no, it's not. It's anything but a smooth ride to get to where I got to. But I'm extremely happy with where I'm at right now.
Absolutely. As well you should be, man. And that's one thing I definitely like. If you're interested in coming back on and going over that, I'm all ears because I would love for everybody to be able to hear what what you've actually had to go through because you're absolutely right. Everybody thinks that everything's going to get handed to you on a silver platter, or they're going to be able to pull this and pull that magic rabbit out of the hat, and just all of a sudden, poof, you're making tons of money doing what you love. That does you have to bust your ass
Right,
constantly. You know what I mean? And I've got a friend of mine who said
right.
exactly what you're saying. He's like, man, you know, with some of the interviews I've been blessed with, like I've got you on the show, I had Rank, I've had my very first interview was Marcus Allen. And I had no business being on camera with that guy, but he blessed me with it. So I was just okay. And then I fell in love with it. And I've been very lucky. And as you know, I've probably how many times I've blown you up. And I appreciate hats off, man. I appreciate you being on because anybody can just give me the old fuck off or okay, yeah, I'll do it. But until I get one of those, I won't stop. And
Yeah, no, no. I mean, yeah, I mean, peek behind the curtain. I think you reached out probably 3 times before I even responded because because you reached out during the regular season. I'm just like,
right.
I'm just buried during
Yeah.
the regular season. And then it's like funny, like when I have a moment, like I actually go through all my DMs and like try to respond in bulk to people. It's like such a bad way. By the way, that's a horrible way to do it. That's like not professional. Like that's not cool. So I apologize, but that is what I do,
Well, the
unfortunately.
fact that
It's
you
like,
respond is huge to guys like me, man. Trust me, it means the
oh,
world.
dude, listen, man, I respond to damn near everybody. Now, it might not be in a timely manner, as you know, because it
Yeah,
probably was like I don't know when you DM me first, but it was probably like a month later when I responded because like
yeah,
I'm so bad about it. but I will get to DMs, like in
Mhm.
my DMs on Twitter, and obviously on Instagram, everyone's open. But yeah, on Twitter, it's like it is open too. I don't know when I'll get to you, but I will.
But you do, and that means the world, man. Seriously, that makes a guy like me want to keep pushing and reaching out to people and looking into what I need to do to be able to get in a position to where you are and grow. And whenever where you're at, like you like respond, whether it's a month later, a year later, whatever, it means a lot. It really does.
Well, hey man, like I said, it's just it's my pleasure to kind of be on here and talking with folks, and I enjoy it too. And I do have a lot of time in the off season, so I try to make it a priority to kind of help, I guess, smaller content creators and everything kind of, do their thing.
Yeah. Well, James, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being on the show again. I know I keep blowing you up like the thank you so much. It's constant thanks, but seriously, thank you. Um, have a great rest of your day, my man, and hopefully we can get you back on the show soon because I definitely want you to go into as much detail as you possibly can on what you did to get where you're at because I'm just going to try and copy you word for word.
Hey man, like I said, anytime, dude. I appreciate the space and I appreciate the platform.
Absolutely, buddy. Thank you.